Smoke has been choking the skies above the plains of Troy for 10 years. The ground is a graveyard of splintered spears and ash. Two massive armies, the Greeks and the Trojans, are completely exhausted. They are locked in a bloody stalemate, and every traditional military strategy has stalled. This is a war fought up close. Soldiers marched and died under the crushing weight of heavy bronze chest plates and thick helmets like this one. Combat was a grueling test of pure physical endurance. Yet a decade of deploying pure military might resulted in a perfect deadlock. Absolute physical strength alone is sometimes not enough to conquer an enemy. The problem was the city itself. Troy was protected by mathematically precise, impregnable walls. These thick stone blocks and narrow choke points made a direct infantry assault impossible. For the Greeks, the psychological toll was devastating. They were facing lost time, plummeting morale, and the hard realization that conventional warfare was a dead end. So how does a fortress built to withstand any army ultimately fall without a massive final clash of swords? When physical barriers are genuinely insurmountable, survival requires shifting the battlefield entirely, from the physical world into the psychological one. The Greeks abandoned their swords and picked up hammers. On the shoreline, completely hidden from Trojan scouts, they began constructing a gigantic wooden structure. Then they executed the core mechanism of their ruse. The entire Greek armada faked a retreat, sailing out of sight and leaving the massive wooden horse standing alone on an empty beach. This specific tactic was documented in ancient records. This early Greek relief carving shows the Trojan horse. If you look closely at the square windows, you clearly see the faces of an elite strike force hidden inside. While the physical engineering of the horse was impressive, the engineered silence of the empty bay provided the true trap, inducing a false, blinding sense of security. Inside the city, the Trojans cautiously opened their gates. They stepped out into the confusing, eerie quiet of the abandoned Greek camp to examine the massive wooden offering. Immediately, an intense political debate broke out among the Trojan leaders at the gates. They analyzed whether the horse was a divine peace offering to the gods or a cleverly disguised lethal trap. But the besieged populace had a severe psychological vulnerability: confirmation bias. After 10 years of war weariness, they were desperately eager to believe the conflict was truly over. Caution was discarded. In a fatal moment of celebration, the Trojans tied ropes to the enormous object and physically dragged it through their own unbreakable gates. The Greeks successfully weaponized Trojan hope. By feeding their victims desperate optimism, they turned a decade of war weariness into their most lethal tactical advantage. Night fell, and a sharp contrast took hold. After hours of heavy celebration, the exhausted, heavily intoxicated city descended into a deep, vulnerable sleep. In the pitch darkness, the unbearable tension broke. A hidden compartment slowly opened, and the Greek elite strike force silently descended into the heart of the sleeping fortress. They moved with surgical precision. They neutralized the solitary gate guards and quietly unbarred the massive city doors from the inside. Meanwhile, the Greek armada that had simply waited offshore slipped back to the coastline under the cover of darkness, marching straight toward those open gates. The impenetrable wall was never defeated. It was simply bypassed. By compromising the perimeter from within, the greatest defense in the ancient world was rendered instantly obsolete. The eerie silence shattered. The full Greek army flooded into the sleeping streets, plunging the city into absolute chaos. The destruction was overwhelming. Citizens who had celebrated their safety just hours before woke up to shock, panic, and the sudden realization that their home was falling. Troy's immense cultural wealth was completely lost, swallowed by flames and pillaging. Intricate artifacts, like this ancient gold headdress, represent the rich heritage that was abruptly wiped out. The city collapsed because its gatekeepers succumbed to an irresistible illusion. While the stones remained strong, the city fell the moment its internal defenses were compromised by trust. At sunrise, all that remained were the smoldering, leveled foundations of what was once an untouchable empire. Over time, this specific physical military victory transitioned into history's most enduring symbol of psychological deception. The story delivers a core warning. The greatest threats in life and warfare often arrive disguised as gifts, bypassing our defenses through our own blind spots. True wisdom requires constantly looking beyond outward appearances. A single moment of misplaced trust can destroy decades of unyielding strength.